Hi, and welcome back to C1 Risk Training. Today we're working with compliance, getting you ready for your certification or your audit of any kind. And we're going to show you a couple of different choices for quickly adding or getting started on the road to adding internal controls in the OneRisk platform. So first of all, I'm going to go to option one, which is through the GRC library. So I'm going to go to the obligations library. And today we're going to be working with ISO 27001, but of course this is pretty much the same for any of the standards or regulations that you may be working with. You can follow this similar process. And note, we've got some of the more typical obligations and standards that you might have to follow in here: SOC 2, HIPAA, CCPA or GDPR, 800, 171, and CMMC and PCI, all very, very common audit frameworks that we work with. Okay, so I'm going to go into my ISO, and then I'm going to now go to my control library. And what I've done here previously is I've actually gone through and identified which of these controls are applicable to me. So I'm just going to show that here by going to my list view, and I'm going to add applicability so I can see it. And now I can see all of these controls that are in scope. And so simply then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my control library. This is the specific control, and note we have the actual language from ISO itself. And then with many of our frameworks, SOC 2 included in this, we also have guidance that we've abnormalized from auditors. And this guidance will tell you, give you some indication of how to write the internal control and the type of implementation that the auditor is looking for, as well as the evidence they're going to look for to validate that control and make sure that it's being properly implemented. So you have the benefit of reading that here. And then the next step simply is to just go into the internal controls tab. And this internal controls tab is tied directly to this control. And then you can just simply add new and start writing out your internal control. And we actually have a separate training where we're going to show you how to write these internal controls if you're not sure how to do it. So for now, we're just going to stick to that process. So that's one option for you. And so you can literally go from that control library through each of the different controls that are applicable to you, and then just add that internal control in and save it when you're ready. Okay, that's option one. Next option is if you've actually identified which controls are applicable to you, you can come to the applicability tab in the compliance management module, and you'll see all of those controls listed there. Again, if you've got multiple frameworks that you're working with, by the way, you can actually segment by different obligations. I've just got ISO in here, but all of the different frameworks will appear here, and you'll be able to see the different controls that you've signified as applicable. And then what you can do is, again, very similar process, just go into, I'm just going to get rid of this one. Oh, we'll go back to applicability. Sorry about that. And again, and similarly to in the control library, now you can just click into that statement of applicability. You'll see the control library here. You've got the control description, but what we need to do is just that one extra step here. This internal control is actually controlled by the control library. So now we're going to go into that control library so we can see that guidance. And again, we're going to write that internal control. Okay. The third way is a way that a lot of our clients like to do it. And that is actually just to come into internal controls. You see, I've got a few that are written here already. If you're working with a framework and you know the controls that you want to pull in, from the internal controls tab, you can simply go to your activity buttons and go to this. We actually have these bulk operation options that you can do. And then this one is copy from control library. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to copy from control library. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to search for my ISO controls. So I can do ISO 27001. Maybe see what comes up here. Yeah, you can see them coming in here. Great. And now what I can do again, I've got my 177 here again here. I can then just select all of them or whichever ones I need and just click apply. That's brought them all over as internal controls in here. And what you can then do is you can start to go into these. And again, now what we've got is you've got the detail here. And your guidance is, again, this has come over from the control library, and this is how we're implementing the control. And what we can do now is we can just start to modify this internal control to write it the way that we're actually implementing it as an organization. Okay. So of course, what you're going to do here is you're going to put what's ever appropriate in terms of your control name, how you're implementing that control. And note that what's great about this as well is this internal control is still, similarly to the other two options, already connected to the relevant ISO 27001 framework control as well. So you've got everything connected. Okay. So those are your three options for starting to write internal controls. And now do watch our next training, which will show you actually how to write one of those internal controls and the basic formula for doing that. Thanks very much. That concludes our training for today.